Welcome to the Kyle and Tim podcast, episode number 69. The coolest podcast we've done to date. Today, we're going to talk about AI technology and how we are learning about it in real time, how we're learning to incorporate it into our lives, what we find interesting about it. And that's I think the direction we're going to go right now.
Okay, what do you got? Where do you want to start? I could tell you where I wanted to start.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, this has just been a main thought of mine is how this technology affect someone who owns a private transportation company who, in whole or for the most part has vehicles that need drivers driving them. And what's that industry going to look? I'll say in 2 years, because it's easy to see why you could say it'd be a really slow progression for this stuff to evolve. But at the speed things are evolving right now, which I don't even think we fully grasp, at least I know I don't, because I just don't think the human brain has the capability to comprehend when things are moving that fast or happening that fast. But I think it just mostly just feels intuitive, but a lot of it is just based on what I see and what I'm observing is that it's going to be, I don't know if I'd say be obsolete in 2 years, but if you came to any business owner or any hotel, anywhere that transportation is imperative to the operation and said, hey, look, if I could sell you this product that could save you 50% on your transportation expense, and that's what if that's a $1 million a year expense or a $10 million a year expense? You wouldn't think twice about it. And guess what? You're not going to have to worry about housing employees to drive these vehicles. And you're not going to have to worry about all this maintenance and all these things. Like, you need one guy to run this whole fleet. He'll have his computers, and I would do that as a business owner. I'd be like, okay, why would I? Or I could just keep spending 5 times as much money. So, I just think, how do I want to approach that? And I've been talking about it for a while, but how would I act accordingly?
How much does a Cybertruck cost?
I don't know, probably under $100,000. The gentleman I told you I was speaking of, we're not supposed to do that, man.
I was going to look it up.
The gentleman I told you I was speaking to told me that in Austin, the site, when you order a Tesla, it's delivered to your house without a driver. So the car just drives itself to your house.
That's really interesting.
You're killing me, man.
Oh, I got to figure out how much it costs. It's taking quite a while to answer the question. It's actually so cheap. $82,000.
Yeah.
On the high end, it's $102,000. So, okay. So, hypothetically, you get rid of all your vehicles, get Cybertrucks, and they drive themselves.
Yeah, and why would you? And there's not. I don't even know how you. The only competitive market advantage you have as someone who owns those vehicles is who has the most and who has the best price. And then it's just going to become a kind of a scale game of, well, whoever can buy. If someone can buy 100 Tesla trucks, they're going to get them for $60,000 instead of 70, and then their profit margin can be adjusted so they can be X amount dollars cheaper per mile per hour because they got them at scale. And it's just going to become a scale game because I don't know what other there's obviously more competitive advantages you can have in the way you manage your fleet and run it, but it's just it's easy to sit here and theorize right now.
Is that a word?
Yeah. And don't look it up. and just make, guesstimations on what's going on. But it's going to, in some senses, it's going to be reality sooner than later. And it already is. There's a lot of denial about it, if I'm being frank.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's always a lot of denial about new things that come out. Um, so that makes sense.
It's easy, especially in Montana, to deny a lot of realities. In a lot of good ways, we're pretty disconnected from a lot of the country, and like I think I don't know, I'd argue for a large benefit in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
because I don't know how. I wouldn't say that a lot of what's going on politically in our country or geopolitically is overly inspiring or productive to your mental health and the
Yeah.
way you live your life. But there's also realities of the way technology is evolving.
Yeah. Yeah. At some point, you can't like run from it, right? It shows up on your doorstep.
Well, I said this to the same gentleman I was talking to that mentioned that Teslas are now delivered to homes in Texas without a driver. They just send them there.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, my sister lives in a very rural part of
That's
Montana.
actually really crazy if you think about like, so there's cars out on the road that don't have any people in them.
Yeah.
And I guess I never really thought about that. That's been happening for a couple of years now with like the Waymo taxis and stuff, but I've never seen one in real life.
So I was saying to him, my sister lives in the middle of nowhere, rural town in Montana, and it's very isolated, and they like a lot of this technology is not really it's not really adapted into the day or the way they live their life there. And I think like some of the people that honestly run bigger ranches or bigger farms probably do use it, because if they have it all adapted to a computer and they happen to be around people or just be somewhat connected to social media or the internet, they're probably hearing how much how effective technology can be. I know a lot of dairy farms use all kinds of technology,
Yeah.
and I'm sure large scale beef production farms do. But as I said to this gentleman, I said you could go there, or I could, and say like, you know what, I don't want to accept this new world, this technology. I want to live out here in the middle of nowhere, homestead it, take care of some cows. But it's kind of like I don't think you can go back. Maybe some people can, but I really don't think as as we evolve as humans and our technology and our world does, I don't think you can just turn that off and be like, you know what, I'll just kick it back 50 years and chill there. I don't know. Maybe that's a certain personality trait, but it seems more like human nature. You can't just like you adapt or die is the way nature works. And I think it's just the way human beings have evolved. The reason we are still a species that's alive is because we've constantly adapted. But if we just don't, I think we will like I don't know, the rest of the world will pass us by and then we'll be obsolete. And I just don't know where we'll, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's crazy to think about. It's kind of, I don't know, it could be like a painful thing to think about or just scary. What do you think about AI and technology, Kyle? Because you're not responding to what I'm saying.
I'm thinking about what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, it is a little scary. Um, I do agree with you that you can't really go backwards. I think people who integrate those things into their lives as they move forward in their lives and they learn about them, they learn how to use the technology, and they don't have to be an expert at it, but they like get proficient at it. Um, yeah, I think they're adapting and they're changing with the times, and I think they ultimately are like happier people. I think there's probably a correlation between happiness and and kind of adapting to your surroundings. I think if you try to stay um, put, so to speak, um, I think you probably become pretty unhappy. I think about that as like with old people, and you see kind of grumpy old people. Um, it's just because like they haven't adapted, and so I think you do have to understand the new world that you're trying to live in, and that's hard. It's hard to do. I've struggled with understanding the world that we live in. Um, I think it'll always kind of be a struggle, but you got to keep trying.
Yeah, and I think a way I'd phrase it is living in denial,
Yeah,
and but also,
living in the past, right? Like I don't find very many people who live in the past to be very happy.
but I would say to totally contradict living in the denial. I would say that your reality is subjective.
Yeah, I agree with that. How do we look, man?
Good.
Looking good. All right. Yeah. So I like my grandmother, my mom's mom. She did a really good job of adapting. She was like one of the. She was like one of the first people I know that ever got a cell phone, and she totally knew how to use it. And then I remember she was like one of the first people I know that got an iPad, and she knew how to use it. She knew how to use an iPad like as soon as they came out, and she when she was in her 90s, she was using Instacart to get her groceries because she was like, "Well, I'm injured right now. I can't go to the grocery store." She could like she was like ordering groceries on Instacart like in her 90s.
Yeah,
Um, uh, yeah, so I think happier people adapt. This is related. It's different, but it is related. Like I think technology has the ability to so rapidly change over the next 25 years that entire countries may dissolve.
yeah, and I would push back on that and say 5 years.
Okay, yeah.
And I would just say that because like 25 looks
That's
like,
fucking crazy.
because if we look at the natural like progression of society and first world countries, America, like 25 years, you're like, yeah, that seems reasonable. Like, because we can look back 25 years and be like, yeah, look at a 2025 car and look at a 2000. Like we can see that, but like now, like what's happening in a year, it's almost hard for us to grasp how fast it is.
Yeah. And I think yeah, if you think about like what puts a country together, it's like, well, it's organized in a way where it's like, well, the states are part of this country and they kind of are intermixed and intertwined together. They're doing business together. They rely on each other together, right? Like some states rely on other states. The states in the U.S. rely on the federal government. The federal government relies on the state. Like there's like an inherent cooperation happening, and and I think the technology that's coming forward now has an opportunity to like really disrupt that. Um, and I think some ways it's financial. Financially, I think there's there's potentially a lot of disruption there with different financial coins and people kind of potentially moving away from the U.S. dollar. I think that's like a fundamental. It's been really since like I think it was probably like World War One, somewhere between World War One and World War Two, is like the entire world, like the basis of the standard was like the U.S. dollar. What if that goes away? And I'm not saying the U.S. dollar goes away. That's also a question. But like, what if the standard is no longer the U.S. dollar? Meaning things around the world aren't like, oh well, it's based on this price is based on the U.S. dollar. Now, yeah, it could be based on a different currency, but that becomes problematic for the United States.
I guess, but I mean, they would adapt the best they can. It's not like they're a very evolved and powerful country, the United States. So it's not like they're going to but it could affect the hierarchy.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess like on a more regional level, I think this has been slowly changing. It's been slowly changing. I think probably people haven't noticed it. I haven't noticed it that much, but it's true. So like my job is all over the country, right? Like physically all over the country. It's also digital, right? But I live in Montana. But all the people I'm coordinating with are all over the country. And then I'll go and I'll execute some work in a particular other state. But I get paid in Montana and I pay taxes in Montana and then I pay federal taxes. Well, there's already people that have been doing this. People have been doing this for quite a long time, but I think more and more people are working the system. Is like you're like, well, why do I pay taxes to why do I pay taxes at all? And why do I pay taxes to Montana or this other state or the federal government? Like what am I getting out of that? And so if you're digital and everything you create doesn't have a border, well then where do you pay taxes? And where do you cooperate with and where do you not cooperate with?
Yeah, I mean, like to me, it still seems obvious why you'd pay taxes in the state you live in.
Yeah, but yeah, sure. But let's just say that you don't like permanently, let's say you're not there all the time. So like you're kind of a nomad.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to claim residency somewhere.
But that's because there's a law
Yeah.
that says that.
Well, then yeah, like then the entire country, like then it's just federal. Like then you just pay a federal tax. Like
Yeah, and then I think you can go down that rabbit hole and be like, well, why do I pay federal taxes?
well, like I just see the logic in taxes. So like I feel like I don't know, that's a tough sell for me. Like, oh well, I'm a nomad, but I just use the amenities of the entire country, so I shouldn't pay tax. Like what?
Yeah.
No, I just but you don't get no. I don't just drive on the roads in Montana. I drive on the roads all over the country. So
yeah.
like
Yeah, and I'm not saying like you um you shouldn't pay taxes. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is people are inherently more and more, and I would say the majority of the economy is virtual. And so um I think there's an argument to be made that like the tax structure based on the amount of digital work happening probably needs to be revisited.
but I'm pretty sure like the tax book changes every year too. So like I think these things are like I would highly I take a wild guess, but I'd put a lot of I put some money behind it that there's like been things updated for this specific thing.
Yeah, I'm sure they have.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
because that's rapidly changed, like especially since COVID.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about this since like at least like I guess it was like post COVID, but and pre COVID. I've been thinking about that exact thing because everyone says how expensive it is to live here, and there's such a large percentage of the population in Bozeman that isn't employed here.
Right.
And I threw this out there as like it would be fun to try to like announce this was a real thing, just to see the reaction if you wanted to be a like
Controversial.
yeah, or if you just wanted to like if you were just being a troll, like if you just
Okay.
wanted to troll people,
Yeah.
you say like new legislation going in 2026, if one or more persons that owns a house in Bozeman isn't employed here, like you have to pay like this much more, like you know what
More
I mean?
taxes.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, but like because you can see the issue that this creates because it creates this really imbalanced economy here. Because you're like, well, they've been able to put such a price on real estate and stuff here, and then there's not an economy here to support that, and then the entire economy becomes, second homeowners or people that work remotely, and you're like that's I think a bigger picture thing that like that can create a very big issue, because if you want to, you want to go live somewhere in the Midwest or some rural spot that isn't overly sought after because it doesn't have every amenity and airport that a major city has, usually it's at a reduced price because there's just not all those expenses. But then this sort of creates and like this is, rapidly becoming that. Like we have one of the busiest airports on this side of the country, or the, but it's like you see the massive imbalance and you're like, oh, well, shit, who thought about this?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because like what creates an economy, and some of the things that you're talking about, although they may have some negative impacts, they are creating the economy, right? Like we have a different economy than we did 5 years ago because all these people moved here. And so other people's businesses are flourishing because all these people have moved here. Like people in construction are doing well. People who own a bunch of companies are doing well, right? Like your company exists because people are moving here, people are visiting here, right? And so it's interesting because it's like, well, it actually is like a push pull. It's like, well, these negative things are that are negative. They're creating something that exists new. It doesn't maybe exist new today, but like in a year from now, in 5 years from now. And then there will be like this entire economy here, and it'll be completely different, right? Like I think I like to compare Bozeman to Boise. I think Boise's big enough that people they can, in my mind, Boise and Bozeman, you can look at them and you can see how far they are apart, and you can notice that they're not that far apart, but they're really far apart. Whereas, you can't compare it to like a really big city. And I don't remember the exact population in Boise.
I believe it's over 1 million.
Well, so no, Boise has I'm talking about like the city of Boise, I think has like 250,000. Treasure Valley has about 1 million people now.
Okay.
So you kind of look at it like as a whole valley. But I can totally see Bozeman going from, call it 90,000 to 250,000. And you go, yeah, I can see that. But I look at the economy in Boise, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, like I could see how Bozeman could get there really quickly. Maybe we got off on a tangent there, but anyway, I think it's hard to decide like what creates what, right? Like, does the problem create the solution?
Yeah, and then like that's subjective, because if you were somebody that lived here in the 90s and you were paying, 600 bucks for rent a month, and like, or your mortgage payment was 800 bucks a month, and you could ski here and you could do all this stuff, and you're like, I moved here like not because of this huge financial opportunity, but this opportunity to be outside and be in nature and do all these things I love. And then you're like, what the fuck? Like it's 4 times the price. Like now I can't do this. So now I'm like, oh, and now I like, you could see the dilemma you're in, because you're like, oh, I didn't like go get this high stress, occupation, and I didn't get all these credentials, and I'm not making millions of dollars a year. And now I'm like, I guess I'm leaving. And you're like, but I think that's a really good example of what technology like has already done as a disruptor. And you could like, and it's like I said, it's subjective to is that positive or negative, because you could be like, hell yeah, I can have the same job and go live in Montana, like not deal with all the bullshit, but have the same job. Like, yeah, why wouldn't I do that? And then somebody here is like, this is bullshit, man. Like I've just been here quietly raising my family, and then all these motherfuckers are like, they're having their cake and they're eating it too. You know what
I mean? This is me.
I know, and like, but like you could see both sides of it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I, 5 years ago, I guess it was more than that. I was like, what year is it? 2025. 6.5 years ago, and I came to Bozeman, and I was like, I had just gotten this remote job, and I was like, man, this is crazy. I have this remote job, but like I'm also, like I have a travel job, and I'm like, this is crazy that like I can live this life. And I was like, man, Montana is the shit, especially Bozeman. It's like modern enough. It has these amenities, but it's also like, man, I'm back in 1995 again, you know? And so you can like jump back in time, but then you're like, oh shit. You go downtown, you're like, I feel like I'm in a modern city in anywhere in the country. And then you drive 10 minutes and you're like, man, I'm in Montana.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
then
it really is right now. We're so lucky. We literally are having our cake and eating it too. That's literally what's happening right now in Bozeman. It's fucking awesome.
yeah, and then like I'll say that like I think ironically, but not ironically, and like that's why everyone this is such a touchy subject and everyone freaks out about it is because this will become that city that you came from,
Yes, it will
and like
eventually.
yeah, and
Well, I mean, not quite, but yes,
yeah, like
eventually.
I would say yes, but yes, because you're saying like not quite, but I would say like
Yeah, eventually,
yeah,
but I'll be dead. Yeah.
yeah. Look at that team contribution over here. It's like, well, I'll be gone. Have fun with this, guys. I got
I
my cake with frosting.
well, but I also think like that's the way the world works, and I think it's worked for our grandparents that way. It worked for everybody that way. It's
Yeah.
like there's a town they grew up in. If it was flourishing and doing well, they probably would stay. If they weren't flourishing, it wasn't doing well, maybe they left, or they stayed and unfortunately the economy in the town died, and they probably, maybe hopefully they lived a good life, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's how everything goes. Like you think about the gold rush, everybody was going to the West Coast to go to California and these Western states where there was supposedly gold in the mountains, right? Some people found gold, but what they found was like a flourishing economy and a state that was booming, right? And so there was opportunity, so they went. Right now, like that's the opposite of what's happening, right? And in some ways is that like people have decided to leave California because they, for whatever reasons. And I think it doesn't matter. Migration is happening all over the country. It has always happened. It will always happen. Um, and there's positives and negatives about that migration. Um, that's never going to stop. And so Bozeman might be a shitty place to live in 50 years, but there'll be another cool place and people will go there.
I got to stop you right there because you said a few things I wanted to say something about. Because you said that's how the world works. That's how it always goes, and like that will never stop.
Like evolution of that kind of
And
stuff.
so
Yeah.
this is what like, but the way this is like how I would. This is me being idealistic, but this is how I'd like to approach that. I would like say, do I think like I would ask different questions and say like, well, is this the most beneficial way for the world to work? Instead of saying this is how the world works, because
Mm,
just because I like the thought of like taking some accountability and taking um the like really valuable resource I have, which is the luxury of the time to think about these things. You know what I mean? Because I'm not like stressed out of my mind and just trying to get by. And like, could we take this really high functioning technology that we now have, take one of these chat bots, and could we intelligently approach the way that we're like, the way that we're approaching this city and smaller cities? And is there like a much more, um, regenerative way to have a city?
sure.
Somebody just said this to me on a podcast. And I really liked this statement. That's why I stopped myself because I almost said sustainable.
Yeah.
And he said that this woman is she's a biologist or some, anyway, she
Yeah.
does something smart. She said she despises the word sustainable
Yeah. So do I.
because like if things sustain they stay the same, but and the new buzzword is regenerative agriculture
Mm.
because but like I would like I think taking that word and applying it to society, like how about
Regenerative.
regenerative society,
Yeah.
like, oh, this place like regenerates new potential and possibility, like because sustainable or like the model of the way we've run commercial agriculture is we take everything that place has to offer and then we leave it like with nothing. And the regenerative agriculture is an attempt to reverse that and like, hey, let's give a lot back to the land because the land's giving us so much, and let's have some reciprocity. And I agree with everything you're saying, but I would like love to just think about it as a what's a like instead of just saying like this is how we are, as fucking humans. Here we go again, fucking shit up and blowing up another city. But literally, like we have case and point in so many cities, and the reason people left, and then we come to the same cities and do the same thing, and it's like human nature has a lot of flaws and diseases in it.
Yeah, it does. I guess I would like to create a better system as well. I, I guess I just don't.
However,
Well, I think there's a distinction between like um, people put their individual spin on everything, right? And they want everything to be set up for them as an individual, and I don't think nature works that way. And I would also say that like there's a lot of victimhood and victim mentality, that's
I would say that
talked about, and it's like you're not a victim to live in Bozeman.
yeah,
Like you live in a fucking great place that has the strongest economy in the entire state by far, and that has so much to offer. Like this place has so much to offer. It's one of the coolest places in the country. And if you don't think so, then why do you think so many people are trying to move here and visit here? And so what I'm getting at is like there's so many great things to look at that have opportunities, and so I think people should look at those and build off of those things. Yeah, there are some negative things, sure, but like what city in the country doesn't have some of those same things, whether it's New York or San Francisco or Chicago or smaller cities like Boise's growing like crazy too, and people are having the same conversation in Boise. Um, so I think I would, I just encourage people to look at all the positive things that are occurring as well, because they're happening at the same time, and it's both.
yeah. I just think fundamentally this comes down to human nature because everything you just said I agree with, but like what people could say are negatives, I could find easy ways to agree with, and I think like by design, and it's not a fault. It's more of just a reality of human nature is that we all take reality and then we put our subjective spin on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where probably where one of like the most profound things about AI, because like at least a chat bot I'm thinking of, because that's just like, something that's trending right now, but is changing the way people work is I look at it a lot like math. It's got like an element of emotion in it because it was designed by humans. So it's got the remnants of us humans in it, but it's it can just like a lot of it is a mathematical equation.
It's binary.
Yeah, so it can just say like it can give you mathematical answers and be highly accurate and just like factual according to the data it's been given, which is
Yeah.
based off the math systems we use. And that's why I think it could like you could ask it these questions and it would just give you like not these really subjective answers that are so, well, because I grew up in this city and like
Mm.
and because it's all going to be subjective. Like it's subjective to the people that have been here for 40 years are going to be like, what the fuck, this sucks. The same way the people that just came here are like, dude, you're being an asshole. Like this is so great.
Yeah.
And everyone in between. And that's like, I don't know. Like a part of me wants to call it a human flaw, but it's not a flaw. It's just human nature. But we all have that element of we're self-centered. We live in our body. We experience the world in our body. So like, how could we not? Like, there's no other way to feel what you're feeling. Like, you're never going to understand reality from somebody else's point of view.
Yeah, I do think we should use the technology to do better. Urban planning, city planning, community planning. I think we should definitely use the technology for it. I think it'll give us a lot of really good suggestions. Um, uh, yeah, I think city. Yeah, we should totally use it, and the technology is really good at predicting potential outcomes of things if you give it the right prompts.
Yeah.
If you say, hey, look, here are my scenarios, and here's what the growth of the city looks like in 2 years, in 5 years, in 7 years, and these are the challenges we're going to have. We're going to have challenges with water, sewer, plumbing, labor, and you can kind of pinpoint it into these directions as you kind of feed it information. And
And look at the amount of data center guy.
yeah,
Like look at the amount of data it has to draw from,
oh, it's crazy.
because like you could take any city, like, and just like you could say like, look, here's what happened. Like here's what happened in this city. Like these were the issues. Like this is what people find negative. This is what people find positive.
Yeah,
This is the reoccurring. Like we have centuries of data now, all digital, and it can draw from all that data.
yeah,
So I just think that it could but at the same time, the natural thing that human nature will do is like find its own kind of self-centered way to use it to benefit them individually, because that's what we just naturally do as humans. Like we don't think, I don't know. I just don't think a lot of people think like, man, how could this like be perfect for everyone else? Like I think it's just in your nature to survive. That's what a human organism does. But I do think, with the intelligence of it and the intelligence of some of the more intelligent people in the world, like you could find a way. And I think a lot of us probably wouldn't even like the answers. You know what I mean? Because we'd
yeah, I'm
hear
sure.
like you could do, oh, we actually got to do this and this and this, and we'd be like, well, man, that isn't really like
Well, you
that.
also you also have you're going to have people fighting against it because it goes against their livelihood, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Like I'll give you an example, right? If if it said shut down every transportation company in Bozeman and everybody's going to drive or everybody's going to get in their own Cybertruck, right? There might be some business owners that are against that, right? And so all I'm saying is there's always going to be people that are fighting against certain things because it goes against their livelihood.
That's what I mean. So I think that we would I think we could have this perfect plan laid out in front of us. Like you could like look at all the numbers and you could bend them 6 ways, backwards, sideways, and you'd be like,
This
well,
is the path forward.
you'd be like, this really does make sense.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be some drastic change, but like this, like long term for the greater good of this community and this country. And I think
It's really funny, actually.
I think the biggest battle would be like, I think you could, because this has been my personal experience in within myself in human nature.
Yeah, I mean,
Tell me how many things you should do and are the right thing and you don't do. Like this is the story of my life. Like,
yeah,
and then, look, the thing that's benefited me is because I've had enough really, really just good luck and fortune, and then some discipline and willpower,
yeah,
but mostly good luck and fortune because of the place I was born in the country and the people I grew up with and like the people I was exposed to and the mentors, like extremely just like fate, that like most of it just fate and luck, that just gave me enough of like the willpower and courage to push myself to do some things that were uncomfortable, but I like through enough trial and error learned were the right things to do. And like that's been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And like to try to get people to do that at scale and see like their life changed, and you know what I mean? If the current system's benefiting you, like why would you want to change it?
right. Yeah, I mean, if I watched it happen at Amazon when I was there, it was like the the company was having all this inner conflict because one part of the department wanted to go in one direction, one wanted to go in another direction, one wanted to go in another direction, and so they were just massive infighting. And what I mean by that is like, um, there was like these kind of rules, and this is literally exactly like the way I think the the world works is like a law gets put into place and that becomes the rule, right? And then everybody builds their business around the rule, right? Because that's the law. Well, then the law doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work. Like it doesn't actually work anymore because society's changed, technology's changed, things have evolved and changed around it. But then it's like, well, yeah, but you have to hit this requirement, and it's like, well, that's not really like. There's an internal conflict, right? And so what I mean is, I watched people at Amazon be like build up to like this team. Like we have a team of 100 people, and I'm like, okay, well, we have a team of 100 people. Well, that team of 100 people is directly in conflict with another team of 100 people, and so they're not in cooperation, and they work for the same organization. It's kind of like how you know a smaller version of like a state works.
So okay, so think of this, like think of that with like your example with the rule, and the rule like the rule works for the current way things are, and then things change. I just said this the other day, and I'm only now realizing this correlation. So what if you thought of like, because you could see the argument for why an AI or a chatbot would be more proficient at making the major decisions in our country than humans, because, and I said this because I was at a business group, and the question for every business that introduced themselves, what was your first job? Mine was, I was a farmer. I worked as a dairy farmer on my family's farm. Then my first real job with a W-2 was on another farm off there. And and I think the follow-up question was, what did it teach you? I don't know where this came from. I just pulled it out of my ass. But I said, what it teaches you is that like Mother Nature doesn't, it like, she doesn't care. She's indifferent. And sometimes things can really suck and go terrible for no reason. And you got to understand and accept that. And sometimes things can go really good and be great for no reason. And you have to understand and accept that. And the thought in my head was, because I had a business selling hay, and we did hay on our farm, is you can go, you can plant the perfect field of hay, and you can put so much money into it and so much time. And, like the rain's right, and it rains at the right time, and it grows and it flourishes, and you got a beautiful crop. And you need to cut it, and now you need to cut it and dry it and preserve it, and you cut it and you get that hay dried out just enough. It's not too dry, so it's not like, it's got a little bit of moisture, the right amount, the protein's good. You're going to put this stuff up, it's going to be worth a lot of money. You're going to feed your cows, you're going to sell some. Here comes a rainstorm out of nowhere, wasn't forecasted, ruins it all. You can still go bale it up, but it's like some junk hay now. Maybe you can use it for mulch, or for your cows to lay on, but like,
Uh-huh.
and the weather's indifferent. And then like the next year the opposite might happen. You might cut it and get the perfect window and get the perfect crop put up, and then the next year you might plant it all, and a frost comes out of nowhere and kills it all. But it's so indifferent, and nobody, like, you can complain about the weather, but you can't change it.
Right.
And that's like, not yet anyway, probably getting close. But that, I mean, like that, it's so black and white. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's why I just wonder, like, obviously the biggest problem with humanity is humans, which is a hilariously ironic thing to say, but
Yeah.
because we're so like, well, listen, I know we made that law a while ago, and I know it doesn't work, but see, the problem is I got 2 kids, and I'm newly married, and this rule is what I built my entire business around. And now you're going to change this rule, and my business is going to dissolve, and I want to feed my kids. And it's like we're sympathetic to that. Who isn't? Like, oh yeah, like, so if we just change things every day, it's gonna, like, there's gonna be no stability. But eventually there needs to be some changes. So that's the complexity of humanity that, like, is so interesting. Like, and then just watching us, like, do the same things over. And if you put yourself in people's shoes, you can kind of understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
but it's hard to do that, and we all are a bunch of greedy, crazy humans. I don't know. So that should fix everything.
Yeah, I think the technology should make certain decisions. There's certain decisions I don't think it should make, but
Yeah.
I think we're gonna find that out. Like as a society over time, we're gonna find that out, and we probably should, force. I say force, but like batch these like kinds of things like a machine should make those decisions. These other types of things like no, that has to do with more of emotion and spirit, and you know you should that
Hey,
should be
who
like
are you to
that.
make? Who are you to make these decisions?
I don't know. I'm saying
That's what I
I'm
mean.
saying
And
as
like,
society we're gonna find out.
but you could see
Like you
like,
find out,
well,
like
you're letting it take that decision. That's my job. But you won't let
sure.
it take this decision because this is like a spiritual one. So
Yeah, no,
like,
I'm not saying that. I'm
I know,
saying
but that's what
yeah,
like. Do you see like? I was just playing devil's
yeah,
advocate because this is how it goes. This is like a pretty common, at least in my observation,
yeah.
a common like side effect of being a human.
I also think that like um, you mentioned it. People are all worried in many ways, and rightfully so in some. That AI is going to, make all these mistakes, and it's going to be mad chaos. Well, yeah. Well, people make mistakes too. People are forget like, well, yeah, we make a ton of mistakes, right? So people are like, it's going to make mistakes. Yeah, and so do we.
We'll take the auto industry. How many like how many human made decisions have like caused in massive fatalities and casualties because of malfunction of automotive vehicles and equipment, and like how many people die every year in car accidents?
Right.
And that's a side effect of human decisions, like, and the wrong decision, the right decision, I don't know, but we for the most part try to imply best practices. That's why we have safety standards for automobiles, roads, but like it's been going on forever, and like evolving technology has been making people's lives, I'm going to say exponentially better, and causing lots of casualties and death and fatalities at the same time, like at the same time in tandem. Obviously one's outruling the other because our population has grown.
Yeah.
If it was like if like yeah, and the reality is like if it's too extreme the other way, like it will wipe out our population, and like the reality of that the technology is there, like so quick, like like the entire existence of human civilization could be wiped out. Probably like the power to do it now is probably at the height.
And
It's
what are you thinking about? What do you when you say that?
like anything, like nuclear weapons, like anything that could just like massive, like like you can do airstrikes with drones now. Like
Oh,
it's not like, think of that power in the wrong hands,
right.
and like the power is exponential compared to what it was.
Yeah, and it's so funny you say that, right? Because we've been doing airstrikes with drones for since we were in elementary school.
Yeah,
You know, and it's been a long time.
yeah. Not like I didn't even know if it was actually that long.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, basically, I think they started in like 2004,
Hmm. Yeah.
somewhere
So
somewhere around there.
anyway, that's what I'm saying is that like that there's a great reason to be scared too, but like kind of where we started too is, do you focus on that all day, or do you focus on like how could we use this to like
I
exponentially benefit society, like, and then but who gets to decide, like, that statement in itself is subjective.
Yeah, I mean, I think I I would like to think I'm going to focus on it in that like how can it improve my life?
Yeah,
I'd be like,
but what if someone
and I
said like,
have it
what
has
if
it
somebody,
has improved my life like in the last I've I made a conscious decision, probably sometime in like 2016 or 17 to like just be more open minded about it. I was like the last person to have an iPhone. I was like, the last person to kind of adopt like a bunch of this social media stuff, and I don't participate in a lot of it. Um, but I'm more open-minded about it than, and I'm happy about that. I could be way more open-minded than even I am now, and I probably should continue to kind of open up about it. But I do feel, um, I feel that there's a lot of benefits.
Yeah, and like I don't know this, like depending on what, like, you know, depending on the end goal, I get like yes and no. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because like, what if we're like adapting to all this technology and then like our entire social life is dissolving and like our actual like state of being and contentment and happiness is dissolving, but like we're almost delusional because like we're like, fuck, I'm so productive, I'm getting so much done. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, I feel like I've noticed that a little bit. Um, I'm gonna seem like I'm like one of these grumpy people that are upset. I've only lived here for 6.5 years, but you know, I think people are less. Um, I don't know if it's probably not friendly. It's not necessarily friendly, but people don't say hi and make eye contact the way they did 6.5 years ago in this
Dude,
town.
you've said that to me like 3 or 4 times, and I've argued with you every time you've said this
Well, all right.
because
Well,
I think it's like your perception of the town has changed. It's like I like this is just like this is the a perfect example of two beliefs like
mhm,
bumping into each other because
yeah,
I'm like I like, man, I'll put so much money on, like it's your totally subjective belief that's changed. Like I guarantee you were like, like have you ever been in the honeymoon phase in a relationship?
never.
Me either. But from what they say, like you're so happy, like there's drugs, like there's naturally created drugs flowing through your body.
Yeah,
I swear to you, everyone smiles at me when I'm in the honeymoon phase.
yeah. You're right.
And when they
And
don't, like I make the excuse for them. I'm like, you know what? That guy didn't see me. Like he didn't see this smile. So like that was the only issue. Like,
ah,
but then like I'm pissed off. Like
fuck that
not only
guy.
did like me and what's her name break up, but like I had a bad day at work and like this place has definitely changed. And like
What was her name?
that's my like that's my that's just my that's been my experience. So like, oh yeah, nothing some things have slightly changed because they always do,
Yeah,
but my perception is what's drastically changed.
yeah. And I mean, it's not like I'm unhappy about living here. I love it, but I will say that
This guy's a liar.
that
Everyone watching.
I've noticed people out on the trails and they have their headphones in and they don't necessarily say hi, and
And
so
to you of all people, like, who wouldn't say hi to you?
I know, man. I know. I'm like the nicest guy ever. Um, your comment to that was that
Also, I'd say if I was somebody's dog on a trail, I'd bite you.
okay? So you you were saying that like maybe we become less social and less
Yeah.
communicate less and less happy, and all I'm saying is you know Bluetooth headphones and podcasts have become way more popular in the last 7, 8, 10 years. And so people are more listening to those and they're going on a run or on a walk with headphones on. That just happens to be more popular today than it was 7 years ago. And so I am noticing more people with their headphones on the trails, listening to podcasts or whatever the hell they're listening to. And they're enjoying themselves. That's how they want to spend their afternoon. Good for them, right? But I think it is like it's both, right? It's like, well, they're adopting the technology, and maybe that's in my small, tiny little example. It's making people less social
Yeah.
or communicating less. Um, however, then you can look at it in a different way, right? In that, like that's in real life.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe people are being more social in some ways. They're just not communicating with people that are in front of their face. And so like they're online talking to more people. Like that is it a I don't know that's necessarily a bad thing, right? Like people are communicating all over the world. And so it's like if I'm being social with you and communicating with you and you're across the world, that's not a bad thing.
And what if, like, take this example? So you're like, you pass this guy and he like doesn't look at you and he's got his headphones in. And you're like, it's fucking bullshit, man. Like everyone used to be like smiling, talk to me, and the guy's listening to a podcast with like one of his family members, like
Sure.
somebody he doesn't get to see all the time, or somebody that passed away. And in like internally, he's like, God, man, this is so special. Like, what a like I'm walking through this beautiful city, and
And
he's
then
just
my dog goes up and fucking bites him.
yeah. But like, you see what I mean? So maybe like maybe you're the type of guy who loves when like look, you're like a social guy that will like talk to a lot of strangers.
Sure.
Um, that's a probably big reason why we're friends. And but like, what if for other people like they've never felt connected to their family their whole life, and now one of my siblings or yours is listening to this podcast and they're like, oh man, I feel like I know Tim and Kyle so much better. Like I never got the like. I thought both of those guys were idiots.
Yeah.
Like now I get them.
They're so
like,
smart. They're so good looking.
Yeah, sure. But like maybe they're like, I just never understood why the fuck they started doing that podcast and like what's wrong with them. And I'm like, holy like wow, now there's like 69 episodes. Like, and I start to understand them. Like, cool, like respect. Now I get them. Like, so I don't know. But like I think both are wrong and both are right.
Yeah.
So let's just not do anything.
Well, I mean, I think it's like, my grandmother adopted technology really well. And I mean, it was so cool to FaceTime with my grandmother, and she knows exactly how to use all the technology. And I was FaceTiming my grandmother for 10 years, like literally from when she was 80 to 90. Like most people can't say that. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
That I could do that. Other people's grandparents can't fucking use technology at all. Right. And that's because they decided not to use it, not to adopt it. So there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
It's also really cool to play bridge and, turn your phone off and just play with somebody in front of your face. Like I went to a barbecue last night and it was so much fun. Sitting around, playing a game, eating food. And nobody had their phones out at all. We did look up a few things on
ChatGPT. I was gonna say, I'm seeing like a screenshot right now, like every other person on their phone, like 12 hours ago. I was like, nobody's on their phone.
People were just like very engaged in the conversation, and it was fun. So
they were all drunk.
Actually, like half the group wasn't drinking at all, so the other half was having a couple of drinks. Yeah.
In my reality, they're all blacked out. They're doing cake stands.
No, I mean that was back in the day, man.
Anyway, I hear you. It's like, this could go all day too, like because everything's so subjective.
Yeah.
I got to piss. Do you want to wrap this up?
How long have we been going?
I don't know. It feels like years.
Oh man,
about an hour,
dude. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks for
letting us ramble.
Yeah, thanks for letting us ramble. Do all the stuff. Listen to podcasts. Hug your parents. Smile. Love people. Be nice to everyone. Send us your money. We don't have a link anywhere for it. All right. We're out of here.
All right.
See ya.
See ya. Bye.